A bright young man who was an amazing athlete and in training to become a Paralympian. Oliver was fun and laughed a lot. He loved life and being with his family. But in November 2016, aged just 18, he died in hospital care. I'm Chrissy B, and you are watching the UK's only TV show dedicated to mental health and well-being. And today, I speak to Oliver's mum, Paula McGowan, about the tragic loss of her son who had high-functioning autism. But she'll also be talking about the changes she's prompted in the NHS following his death, making a massive difference for other families. She's joined by our resident autism correspondent Anna Kennedy, who's been helping her with her cause. Also on the show today, we have our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, in this week's Psychology Matters segment, talking about using a loss in a positive way. And family coach Sharon Lawton gives some tips on dealing with loss as a family. Helena Shard will be sharing news around today's topic, and Dr Rob Hicks is back to answer all of your medical questions. Then we have our nutritionist Hannah Richards to answer your nutritional questions, and we also have a special treat for you. You've seen him on last year's X Factor. We have on Russell Jones, and he will be speaking about how he's making a difference in care homes and schools. So as you can see, we have a packed show today, so let's get started with Anna Kennedy and her guest Paula McGowan. Welcome to the show, Anna and Paula.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Both. Lovely to have you both. So Paula, we're going to hear your story in just a moment, but first of all, let's get the updates from Anna, who's been busy as usual.
Yeah, I've been doing so much stuff, I can't even remember what I did last week. We got some exciting news yesterday that Autism's Got Talent actually won, I need to look at the title here, United in Diversity Special Recognition Award.
Oh, amazing.
So amongst 70 countries, so we're really excited about it. The 5 groups have won a Special Recognition Award, so we'll be going in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're also built up to Autism's Got Talent Liverpool, so there's only a few weeks to go now, so we're excited about that. Yeah. I've been dancing with Robin Windsor.
Yes, I've seen your Instagram posts and everything.
Yeah, so we're dancing all over the country. And then the final one, if anyone would like to go, it's November the 25th at the Novella Theatre. Okay. And that's going to be exciting. That's the last dance. And one thing I'm quite excited about, we're working with the NHS in Liverpool, and it's the University Careers Fair for autistic students. So it's the first time they've done anything like this. It's a pilot study, and we're working with Liverpool Hope University, the University of Chester, and the University of Liverpool. So that's going to be in December. So if you might be interested, if you're autistic and you might like to go to university, there's a fair there purely for you. So if this works really well, we're going to be rolling it out across the country.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then the last thing, we had the Autism Hero Awards, which were amazing. It was just it was just such a lovely night, and we get bigger every year. We had 12 winners, and Anthony Costa was there from Blue, and he shared, he's got a relative on the autism spectrum, so we were chatting together. So that was our programme, which is very nice. And we've got one of our winners.
One of our winners,
yes. So Paula got the Special Recognition Award, Anna's Choice, and you'll get to hear why.
Okay, so let's hear your story now, Paula, first of all. So obviously you're going to be here to speak about your son, Oliver.
Yes.
Can you tell us, first of all, what he was like?
Oliver was a typical teenager, really, to be honest, but he was also a young person that was so inspirational. Always saw the good in everything and everyone. Just always pushed himself to achieve the best he ever could. Nothing held him back. He was, he did his GCSEs at college. He was actually, he was training to be a Paralympian. He was school council, school prefect. He was fun. He's just always laughing. If he came into the room, he would light that room up. He loved life, and life loved him.
Is that what you love the most about him?
It's just, it was just the purity of him, the way he always saw the good in everybody, but just always strove to be the best person he could be. I think he's very, very sadly missed, I think, by so many people.
Yeah. What actually happened, Paula, then, to him?
Oh gosh, where do you start? So it started leading up to the year before Oliver died. So Oliver, as a consequence of meningitis as a baby, he had a stroke, and that left him with mild cerebral palsy. He had focal seizures, so absence-type seizures, so that he was always fully conscious, high-functioning autism, and an incredibly mild learning disability. And Oliver was living a good life and, like I said, enjoyed life and really embracing things. And we were told he had a full life expectancy and would require maybe a tiny bit of support later on. So he would live independently. And then that last year, due to GCSEs and college life, anxiety caused further seizures for him, and he was taken into a children's hospital in Bristol for further investigations of the seizures. And for the first time after that, Oliver was given sertraline, which is an antidepressant. And we were quite surprised at that because Oliver, he wasn't depressed. He loved life. But he had absence-type seizures. And I just felt they were misunderstanding his seizures. But, you know, as a mum, you do as you're told. And as soon as I raised the dose of that medication, because Oliver was incredibly sensitive to medications, we saw a decline in Oliver's mood and an increase in seizures. And sadly, Oliver had to be readmitted back into the hospital. And he was anxious and he was agitated, so, you know, frustrated. And for the first time ever, they gave Oliver an antipsychotic medication. And the change in Oliver was catastrophic. We saw an increase of seizures up to 30 a day. So whereas before he'd had 2 a fortnight, and we're talking about very, you know, very quick. He was suddenly biting his skin, trying to pull his hair out. We did not recognise our son at all, and he was terrified. And we complained to the patient liaison services, and we kept saying, take him off the medications. And they did. In the end, they did. And Oliver returned back to his normal self again. Sadly, he had some more seizures, and he was readmitted back to the same hospital again, and they did exactly the same
thing. Unbelievable.
So much so, they placed Oliver on a section, so they deprived him of his liberty, Deprivation of Liberty, Mental Capacity Act. But a bed couldn't be found, and we complained and complained and complained, and eventually they listened and they took him off, and it was the same thing again. And in that time, Oliver was seen by the community pals, and the words they said was that Oliver was sensitive to medications and an environment that was not adapted to meet his needs. So the same type of thing was happening again and again, and so much so, at my request, Oliver was transferred to a London hospital, and they did exactly the same thing. They gave him antipsychotics. They were misunderstanding Oliver's autistic behaviours.
Unbelievable.
It was horrific.
Ridiculous.
So much so, Oliver was placed on a Section 2 again, and he was transferred to a mental health unit. And the words there that the psychiatrist and the nurses used were, it was a total misuse of the Mental Health Act. Oliver was high-functioning autistic, his autism, and he had epilepsy. And they discharged Oliver very quickly back into our care with those words again, sensitive to antipsychotics and benzodiazepines. And he came under the care of the Community Learning Disability team. And they were saying the same things. He's not psychotic, he's not mentally ill, he's high-functioning autism. Sadly, in October 2016, so it's this week actually, Oliver was admitted into an adult hospital in Bristol. And this time, in the ambulance, Oliver had made it clear he was happy to go to the hospital. Sorry, he was having clusters of seizures, so absence-type seizures that didn't terminate by themselves. So he agreed to go to hospital with the ambulance staff on provision. He made it very clear, he said, do not give me antipsychotics, they mess with my brain and they make my eyes go up. And he was reassured by the staff, the ambulance staff, that they would pass that information on. I reassured Oliver, I said, I'm going to run back home, I'm going to get, we had a yellow folder that contained all those letters from those doctors saying his sensitivities, you know, his autism, all vital information, and also Oliver's medical healthcare passport, which details information about Oliver, his likes, his dislikes, what will de-escalate a situation, his reactions to medications. So I did that, and I met Oliver at the hospital, and as soon as I arrived there, he was surrounded by doctors, all talking to him at once, but suddenly he had 3 police officers who were holding him by his arms. They were close proximity, and I immediately took the folder to the nurse and the medical passport and said, look, Oliver has autism. You need to make a reasonable adjustment. You know, you need to give him some space. This is his medical healthcare passport. And she reassured me, but I watched her put it in the drawer.
Didn't even look at it.
She didn't look at it at all. And then we met the neurologist. And he actually read all those letters. He took his time, and he reassured us that he had no intention of giving those medications. In fact, he wrote it in on the medical healthcare, you know, on the medical charts, under the allergies box, that Oliver was sensitive to antipsychotics. And we were reassured. Oliver, we went back to Oliver, and everybody was talking to him at once. They were using medical jargon. I had to weave my body in between the doctors to get beside Oliver. In between seizures, Oliver came out, and at one point he said to me, oh, Mum, I feel good now. Can I go home and watch the X Factor and have our party tea? It was Saturday night. And nobody thought to even reassure Oliver, to say, Oliver, let's get you sorted. Yeah. Let's let this medication wear off, and then you can go home. That didn't happen. And Oliver at that point said very clearly to the doctors, don't be giving me antipsychotics. Please don't give me the antipsychotics. They mess with my brain and they make my eyes go up. Same things over and over, and he was reassured again. Consequently, the seizures came back, and the doctors decided to put Oliver onto life support because they wanted to do an MRI scan to just investigations. And we agreed with that because we thought, thank goodness they are not going to use those drugs. Yeah. It was extreme to intubate him like that, but they weren't going to use those drugs. Sadly, a few days later, Oliver's still on life support, and we were met by a neuropsychiatrist who'd met Oliver twice in the community for just 2 10-minute appointments. And she spoke to me and my husband and said, how are we going to treat Oliver's psychosis? And we said, Oliver is not psychotic. He's not mentally ill. And she just kept talking about this psychosis. In the end, we told her what Oliver's wishes were. He was not to be given antipsychotics. He'd been reassured prior to intubation. I showed her the previous letters from the unit. So these are senior psychiatrists that are saying these things, the consultants. And we told her clearly she did not have our permission or Oliver's, and she was not to give them. That night, we found out that she had administered those drugs against everybody's, the safeguarding officer had been down prior to this to give advice when they reduced sedation for Oliver. And it was a non-pharmaceutical approach, and to make sure we were there. All of this was all ignored. And over the next few days, we now know it was a reaction to that antipsychotic she gave.
So what actually happened to him?
Well, he developed a temperature of 42 degrees. My husband and I kept saying, he doesn't look right, he doesn't look right, and we kept getting reassured that there was nothing to worry about, it's fine. In the end, they sent him for a scan of his liver and lungs, and Oliver was having seizures we didn't recognise, so he was having tonic-clonic seizures, full jerky seizures, which were not, they were not what Oliver had. A few days later, they said to us they're going to scan his brain, and we were told to go for a coffee. And my husband said, so long as we don't get taken into that side room, I'm not worried. And when Oliver came back, we got taken into that room. And the words they use are words that no family, we will never forget, the horrifying experience of being told, Oliver's brain is so badly swollen, it's coming out the base of his skull. And we were told that Oliver would be left blind, he would be paralysed, he would be reliant on breathing tubes, he'd be tube fed, he'd have no memory, no speech, everything was gone. So this once vibrant young teenager that was just so full of life, always laughing, always saw the best, and everything was taken. He was just a body then after that. And we were asked, what would Oliver's wishes be? Would he want to survive like that? And the answer was no. And we had to turn his machines off. Now, they told us that Oliver wouldn't survive without a breathing tube. and he would die quite quickly. We talked about donating his lungs and things, his kidneys. Sorry, his kidneys, not his lungs. Because we thought he would die quite quickly. And Oliver, being the warrior that he was, he lived for another 4 days.
Wow.
I know, without the breather machine. In the end, Oliver passed away on Armistice Day, which is poignant because my husband is in the Air Force. Oliver's lived all of his life as a military child. He knew no different. And for us, he was the bravest person. You know, he'd lived his life through all this adversity. He'd survived meningitis twice as a baby. And then just as he went on, he was a joy, he was a pure soul, and he's been taken. And I must say here at this point, I don't want anybody ever to stop taking their medications or antipsychotics, because they will work for a lot of people.
For mental health issues.
Mental health issues.
Not for autism.
Yes.
Purely autism.
Absolutely. Now, we had good reason to know that Oliver was sensitive to these drugs. We'd seen him react previously quite adversely to those medications. So we had good reason. But please, you know, safely, don't anybody ever stop taking medications. So it moves on.
Paula, I'm so sorry for your loss. I mean, what happened was really terrible. And I can't imagine what you went through. But you've also done something really amazing from all of this to help other people, other families that might find themselves in a similar situation. Can you tell the viewers what you've done?
Well, I sat down one day and I just thought, I know that Oliver died as a consequence, which we haven't mentioned actually. Oliver died as a consequence of a thing called neuroleptic malignant syndrome. And that is a side effect of the antipsychotic that was given to Oliver. So I sat down one day and I thought, well, what was the catalyst? Why did the doctors feel the need to give Oliver an antipsychotic medication? And the reason was because they didn't understand Oliver's autistic behaviours and his high functioning learning, his mild learning disabilities. And I thought, it came out during the inquest, you know, they were asked, well, why did you not make reasonable adjustments for Oliver? And the words were, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
Wow.
And that was the catalyst. I thought, hang on a minute, the doctors are not trained in, I became aware they're not trained in autism and learning disability. Now, I then thought, well, this is wrong for the patient first and foremost, because Oliver's lost his life, so it's patient safety, but it's wrong for the doctors and nurses as well. That it's not right for them. How can they effectively treat a patient if they don't have the skills to do so? And especially a patient that might be in crisis. So, like Oliver, he was impacted by seizures. They didn't have the skills to be able to help Oliver because they'd never had the training.
Now, Paula, you actually put a petition together, didn't you?
I did. I put a petition together, and quite quickly we gained 51,000 signatures. But from that, through promoting it through social media, Caroline Dinage, our Health and Social Care Minister, invited me in for a meeting with her ahead of the Learning Disability Mortality Review. It was announced that we would get mandatory training for learning disability.
Yay, finally.
Yes. Fantastic.
But then we were invited, so the petitions committee got in touch with me, and Oliver's petition was then taken to debate on Monday just gone, on the 22nd. And it was announced that autism would also be part of that mandatory training.
So it was just learning disability at first.
Yes, it was just learning disability. Now autism is included in that. We have asked for the training to be in Oliver's name, so it would be the Oliver McGowan mandatory training in autism and learning disability awareness. But it's a real positive, you know. I've met with Ray James, I've met with Anne Webster, Jane Cummings, and we have lots of people all embracing this very important training, because at the moment we have 1,200 deaths a year in people with a learning disability who are dying, preventable deaths. This training will make a huge difference.
So it's going to make a difference to all of our families. Like, even to my sons, you never know what's around the corner.
None of us do.
So it's just that.
I did not know that this could happen to my family. This was not part of my world. Oliver did not have challenging behaviour, and yet Oliver is no longer with us. But this is a real positive. We've achieved an awful lot.
I mean, out of such a loss, but so much has been gained from his
I could not sit back and do nothing. I had to do something. And I'm doing it in Oliver's name. It's his legacy. He was the most giving person.
Yeah.
So from the grave, Oliver is giving back. Amazing. But he's doing it for everybody else as well.
And we're all really proud of you.
Yes.
And we just feel like we've clicked, the pair of us. We just feel like we've known each other for years. But
it is.
It's yeah.
But it's good people coming together.
It is. It's just like, you know what? It's a lot of mums coming together, and then we're like rallying together.
It is. It's a lot of mums, but we have got Caroline Dynager's ear and support, but also lots of good people within the NHS. We've got the universities embracing this training.
Amazing.
So we're trying to change culture.
We're going to keep our eye on the training, aren't we, just to make sure.
This content has to be effective.
It does.
We do not want a tick box.
Well, you are extremely determined. I can see that, and you know it's going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Paula, for sharing your story. Absolutely amazing. I'm gobsmacked, really. And Anna, thank you so much for bringing well-deserved award, by the way. Definitely well-deserved.
Oh, she touched me. That award will go on Oliver's memory table. You don't really realise how much that meant to me.
It was just like when we met, and I just thought straight away, she's got to be having an award.
Yeah, definitely. Well
Anna's choice.
I won a MenCap award as well last week. Still waiting for that award, mind.
Okay.
I have to leave it there, ladies. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much.
Me.
And please keep us updated on what's been happening with
I will do.
everything.
But thank you for giving me the platform to tell Oliver's story.
Absolute pleasure. Okay guys, after the break I speak to two of our resident experts, psychologist Dr Audrey Tang in this week's Psychology Matters segment, talking about using a loss in a positive way, and family coach Sharon Lawton giving some tips on dealing with loss as a family.
It's really important because a lot of people suffer from mental health, and it's really good to know the signs of it, so you could help them out so they could live a better life than they already live.
Welcome back to today's programme, everybody, which we have titled Making a Difference After Loss. So we heard the very powerful story of Paula there, who tragically lost her son Oliver, but she's done something absolutely amazing that's going to help lots and lots of other families. So now we're going to be speaking to our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, on how you can deal with loss or any sort of loss in a more positive way and not to allow it to ruin you. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
Very tough, story to listen to there, but I just see so much strength in Paula. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and you've hit the nail on the head. It's strength that actually helps us cope. Okay. So many of us, when we suffer a loss, sometimes we can switch ourselves off from everything because we just don't want to feel that pain. And one of the most healthy things that we can do is recognise that we're vulnerable, because all of the love and the feelings that we had must be allowed to grow and be expressed, because otherwise it becomes very, very difficult. And if you block yourself off from everything, then you also end up blocking yourself off from positive emotions. And whilst I don't like saying, oh, life goes on, your life won't stop. It will be different, and no one can ever make it what it was before. But it is important that you learn to live your life in a new way.
And this is the point, isn't it? It's a different life, because I remember that's what I explained. So I was trying to help my mum when she lost my father, and she'd been with him for over 40 years. And it was like she felt guilty to move on. And she felt, oh, I shouldn't be enjoying my life now. I thought she felt guilty enough. But I said to her, it's not that you're forgetting him, you're just living your life in a different way now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's another one of the key things. I mean, people experience loss in many different ways. Loss, whether it is the loss of an idea, the loss of a person, the loss of a thing, whatever that might be, it is our response to no longer having something that was of huge value to us. And often the overwhelming feelings that we feel are because of all the love and all the positive feelings that we had for that particular thing, idea, person. And it is important to express that, but also don't feel bad if you do feel happy, but also don't make excuses and don't try and pretend to be happy just because you want everyone to be calm and to be quiet around you. It is okay to feel how you feel, and the important thing to remember with loss is everyone experiences it at different times in different ways, and you may be feeling absolutely fine and suddenly something triggers and you're feeling really sad again. That's perfectly normal, so try not to dismiss it, work through it. Another big thing is it's always wonderful to hear when people use loss to start a campaign, to start a focus, because that does give you a drive and it gives you something to move you through and gets you past some of the difficult times. However, what can also happen is if you become too focused on that thing, that you don't spend enough time working through your real emotions, how you're actually feeling about the loss of that person, that thing, that idea, then that can be more damaging to you in the long run, because all you're doing is you're throwing all your energy one way, and it's no different to self-medicating with drugs, with alcohol, all of those things that we know physically we ought not to do. Shutting ourselves off is not a healthy way of going about things. Of course, if something positive can come out of it, that is great, and it's a way of keeping that person's memory alive, that thing's memory alive, whatever it might be that you've lost. But if it becomes your be-all and end-all, that can be just as unhealthy, that can be just as obsessive.
Okay, and of course, obviously, you know, get help where you need and speak to the right people.
Well, speaking to the right people is very important too. Friends and family can help by respecting your wishes and respecting your way of dealing with something. Just because someone chooses to deal with loss in a way that you yourself may not choose to deal with it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just their way of going about things. Another really important thing is if you are offering help to somebody, maybe do it after everything's calmed down, because often when the events happened, everyone's around there and there is a lot of help, but suddenly everyone goes away, and that's when the loneliness, that's when the sadness hits the person, and that's when it can be really important to say, hey, look, I'll make you dinner, hey, I'll do your ironing, come out, or I'll look after the children. It gives that person space and time for themselves, and the practical help can be so much more useful than asking someone to choose, well, what can I do when you're so overwhelmed with emotion anyway.
I agree. Audrey, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next time. Thank you. Okay, everybody, now it's time to speak to our resident family coach, Sharon Lawton, on dealing with loss as a family. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Hi, Chris.
So how can we prevent loss from tearing a family apart? Because obviously there's a lot of strain, a lot of emotions involved.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Now, when people experience loss or grief or bereavement of any kind, they'll all be dealing with a huge amount of overwhelming and big feelings. And even though there's a recognised sort of grief cycle that everybody goes through, everyone will be experiencing grief in their own way. I think the most important thing to remember is to keep those channels of communication open, so keep talking. And you know, in my experience, I think probably the hardest thing that families experience is the different ways in which people then react to them after they've experienced that loss. So, for example, it might be that people stop talking about that person that has died, or they avoid members of the family completely, and that's generally because they don't know what to say, or they're worried they might say something wrong. So instead of sort of just talking about, you know, talking to them anyway, they stop talking, which leads to feelings of isolation, or that person might feel as though, or particularly if it happens in families, that they don't care, or that they've forgotten about that person. So talking is really important, because then we don't sort of end up feeling those really strong feelings even more, and you know, having big fallouts in families as a result.
What advice would you give to maybe specifically parents who are experiencing
this? It's really hard. So I think for a parent who is going through loss, not only are they trying to support, if they've got other children, they're trying to support their children's feelings and emotions, but they're also trying to sort out and deal their own as well. So it can be very, very difficult. Again, keeping channels of communication open. There's some fantastic support groups out there specifically for parents. One that comes to mind at the moment is SANS, Stillbirth and Neonatal Death Society. They have fantastic little individual support groups and befrienders that, you know, parents can go along to. So they're talking to people who have experienced something similar. But the other thing to remember is that if two parents have experienced the death of a child, for example, just because they've experienced that same loss doesn't mean they're going to experience it in the same way. Yeah, no. So again, you know, got to be talking, got to keep those channels of communication open, so that both of them can explain sort of how they feel, so there's no misunderstandings.
Okay. And what about siblings themselves, and if they've lost a brother or
that can
sister?
be really hard, can't it? I think for young people experiencing death and bereavement, it can feel unfair and unjust and cruel. And I think they struggle with feelings of sort of guilt sometimes. You know, perhaps if they haven't thought about that person for the day, they might feel very guilty, or, you know, even blame themselves sometimes because, you know, it was their sibling that is not here anymore, and they are. So there is lots of things, you know, that they can experience too. But we need to encourage young people to talk. We need to support them to talk. Some will talk very openly and readily. Others will find it much harder to talk, just like we do as adults. So it's about finding those creative avenues, I think, as well, to help them to be able to express themselves. So things, again, support groups, there are lots of them out there, and also giving them an opportunity maybe to create a memory box of all of the sort of special things that, you know, remind them of that special person, or create a collage of pictures, little montage. Or draw a picture or write a letter to them. But for me, it's just about, you know, talking, keeping that communication open and sharing feelings. It's better to talk about it than bottle it up, because that's really unhealthy.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Sharon.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again very soon.
Look forward to it, Chris.
Maybe our next MHD challenge, wherever that's
Oh
going to
yes,
be.
I look forward to that too.
Well, everyone, do stay with us, because after the break we have on Helena Shard, who'll be sharing news around today's topic, and Dr Rob Hicks is back to answer all your medical questions. And here's one of the questions we received. If I pass blood whilst using the lavatory, should I be worried? Find out what he has to say after this break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and wellbeing, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show, and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. And now it's time for a helping of happy with the lovely Helena Shard. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thanks, Chrissy.
So positive news on today's topic.
Yeah, I've got a variety of inspirational people and things and events. Okay. So I just thought it was apt. We've just seen the Invictus Games finish, which has been really, really successful. And we've had 500 injured servicemen and women who've gathered and done 13 sports in Sydney. And it's been really... wow, it's been electric, the feeling. And in Prince Harry's opening speech, he says, our Invictus family has turned these games into a symbol of strength, honour and optimism for a new generation, which I think is really, really appropriate. Obviously, because we know it's all about, it's inspiring these people who've been injured in battle to inspire recovery, support rehabilitation, generate a wider understanding and respect for wounded, injured and sick servicemen and women. So it's been great. And obviously on top of that as well, congratulations to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, I've got to say, because it's exciting obviously that she's going to have a little baby, and brilliant for our economy because we need it. So that would be really good. Moving on to something else as well, about the late David Schutz, his name is, a really, really inspirational man. And he invented something when sick, and it was basically matching businesses to job hunters with chronic illnesses. He formed the Astrid website, which is like a big pool of invisible talent. Unfortunately, he just days after turning 50, suddenly realised he'd got stage 4 kidney cancer. And he went very, very quickly downhill. But he had 6 months, I think, of severe, what do you call it? Chemo and things like that. And it really hit him badly. But the main thing is that he went from being this incredibly valued member of society, I suppose it is. He was like a chartered engineer and naval commander, champion of British industry, had an OBE for his leadership, and all of a sudden he was just David with cancer, which really was quite shocking. So his idea about the Astrid website was brilliant, because there's all these thousands of people, it's like that they're still here, they just happen to be ill, and they're really great pool of talent. So it works so well because businesses can just key into that. Say if you want like a public speaker or something to go out and talk about your business, or really good. So that's really great. I think for him as well, I mean, he's no longer with us, which is a shame, but he's left a great company there. But he was saying that the value of work is far more than the wage you get paid. So it's just the fact that somebody wants you, your opinions, and you're really relied on. But it's a huge story, but I will skip it. But it's just, incredibly inspirational man. And I think I am now going to speak about Dr. Mohammed Christie. And this is a while back in '96. He was working in a paediatric hospital. He was fairly young, but he was a medical college hospital in Bangladesh. And very quickly on his first night, 3 children, little babies, died of pneumonia. He just felt completely helpless and cried and thought, what can I do? Made a promise to himself that he would try and help these children, because apparently roughly 100,000 babies and small children die of the disease each year, and they don't have because here we have all the medical equipment, and it's very expensive, and not only is it expensive, but you need to train up the staff. Anyway, long and short of it all, just recently, so it's 20 years later, is it? My maths is not so good today. But anyway, so he has, it's called the Bubble CPAP device. It basically is a plastic bottle. So it was a discarded plastic shampoo bottle from the intensive care unit. And the idea is, if I can explain it quickly, the baby breathes oxygen from a tank in, and it exhales through a plastic tube into this plastic bottle of water, and the bubbles in the water sort of keeps the small air sacs of the lungs open. So now he's saying that all these hospitals have to have it, because I can't remember that, but 4 out of 5 patients have seen a complete improvement within minutes, amazing, and there's far less deaths.
He kept his promise then after all
these years. He did.
Yeah, bless him.
Admirable, inspirational. So lots of great people.
Thank you so much, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy, as always.
And we'll see you again next week. Yes. Thank you. Okay, everybody, so now it's time for Doctor's Answers with Dr. Rob Hicks. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm ready to get going.
Let's go then. First question. I've just started taking vitamins for my hair and nails, but I've noticed that within an hour or so of taking them, I start to feel quite nauseous and feel a bit lightheaded. These symptoms do subside after a few minutes and I feel fine afterwards, but I was wondering if this was normal.
The answer is it can be normal. But however, if you are taking any sort of supplement on an empty stomach, then the likelihood is that it will irritate the lining of the stomach. Now, this irritation, would normally last just a short period of time, maybe minutes, maybe half an hour, and then it will disappear. In fact, if you're taking supplements that contain iron or vitamin C or vitamin E, then those are more likely to irritate the lining of the stomach. So the sort of thing to think about doing is to have your vitamins supplements with some food or with a main meal. That way the stomach is lined, and also the supplement will mix in with the food whilst it's being digested. Or you might think about taking it in the evening rather than first thing in the morning, or change the formulation to a different one, or maybe switch from tablets to capsules or to the chewable ones. The most important thing really is make sure you're not taking more than the recommended amount of the supplements, because if you take more than you should be, you're more likely to suffer side effects. And actually take a step back and think, do you actually need to be taking the supplements in the first place?
Brilliant. Next question, Rob. I am a 44-year-old male and at times find it really hard to hold in my pee if I can't find a toilet in time. I sometimes end up soiling myself. I thought this was an issue for older people, not someone relatively young like myself.
Well, this is a problem whatever the age really, because not only is it inconvenient and embarrassing, but there may be an underlying reason for it that needs treating. I would urge you to get a checkup with your doctor. Let's get to the bottom of what's causing this. It might be a lifestyle issue. It might be that you're consuming far too much caffeine in drinks or drinking too much alcohol, and it's just a practical thing that you just need feel the urge to go. What you've got is urge incontinence. So you feel this urgent need to go, but you just can't get there in time. Sometimes when people are not actually drinking enough liquid, this is a problem, because strong concentrated urine can irritate the lining of the bladder and then of course trigger needing to go to the toilet very urgently. It might be related to constipation. It might be related to the fact that if you are overweight or obese, that puts pressure on the bladder, and that will cause this sort of problem. Medically, a urinary tract infection, like cystitis, sexually transmitted infection, bladder stones, bladder tumours, they can all irritate the bladder and cause this sort of symptom. In men, prostate problems, and certainly after prostate surgery, this can be a problem as well. And it could be a side effect of medication. So if you're taking medication, check the side effect profile, but get this checked out.
And last question for today, Rob. If I pass blood while using the lavatory, either 1 or 2, should I be worried? It doesn't happen every day, just once in a while.
Simple answer,
yes.
And get it checked out. You're absolutely right. At the serious end of the spectrum, blood in pee or blood in bowel motions can be a symptom of cancer, and obviously the sooner a cancer is diagnosed, the better the chance of a successful treatment. Thinking of blood in the urine, in the pee, could be down to urinary tract infection, it could be down to a sexually transmitted infection, it could be down to trauma, it could be down to kidney stones as well. Thinking about blood in the back passage, could be down to piles, anal fissures, perianal lacerations, that's little cuts around the outside of the back passage. Could be inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis. Could be a gut infection like a food poisoning or some kind of parasitic infection that's causing these symptoms. I think the simple, the answer is you need to get this checked out, whatever. Remember, if you're drinking, if you are eating lots of beetroot, for example, and some medicines and supplements can change the colour of urine, and actually poo can become a lot darker if you're taking iron supplements or if you're eating lots of licorice or blueberries, for example. But regardless of that, get those checked out.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your questions, everybody. And Rob, thank you for answering them for us.
My pleasure, as
always.
always.
We'll see you again next week.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Well, everyone, after the break, we have on last year's X Factor star Russell Jones, who'll be talking about how he's making a difference in care homes and schools. And nutritionist Hannah Richards will be answering your nutritional questions, including this one. What can I do health-wise to improve my vision? Find out after this break. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now we have on Hannah Richards, who's going to be answering all your nutritional questions. Hello, Hannah.
Hi, Chrissy.
Love to have you on. So we have some questions from our viewers.
Great, let's hear them.
The first one is, what can I do health-wise to improve my vision?
Well, you remember your mum used to tell you to eat carrots because you'd see in the dark?
Yes.
Well, she wasn't wrong. So carrots are full of beta-carotene, and beta-carotene converts into vitamin A, and vitamin A is an essential vitamin for eye health. It helps mucous membranes, and it helps form the retinol in the eye as well. So it's a really important vitamin for eye health. Water is a really good one as well. Most of our body's made up of water, and if you have dry eyes, you need hydrating. The whole body needs hydrating, and your eyes need feeding and hydrating as well. So don't forget water for eye health as well.
I heard blueberries were good. Is that right for eye health?
Because blueberries are full of vitamin C, and vitamin C is another essential vitamin, along with zinc and copper and omegas, fatty acids, all good for regenerating and building mucous membranes and retinol and all these things that contribute to
lovely.
Vision.
Okay, brilliant. Next question. What are the best foods to eat during pregnancy?
Pregnancy, well, one of the main things I'd probably mention is protein, because the mother needs protein, and you've got a fetus growing, and you need extra food and protein for the baby as well. And so protein is full of amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks for cells and DNA and anything that's growing. I mean, again, our body's full of proteins. Any structure in the body is a protein. So eggs are a really good one, because also eggs have something called choline in them, and choline is something that's really important for brain development and preventing neural defects. So again, folic acid is another vitamin that we hear about a lot when we're trying to get pregnant, or we are pregnant, and it's something that you need in maybe 400 micrograms a day of folic acid. It can be found in my all-time favorite vegetable,
Broccoli!
But I know. So yeah, folic acid is really important, and its natural form is folate, which is definitely found in things like broccoli and leafy greens and beets and things like that. So protein is a really important one for pregnancy, but a good varied diet as always as well.
Okay, and we've got time for one last one, Hannah. So although a balanced diet is recommended, most foods are tampered with. Would you say that most health conditions such as IBS are caused by genetically modified foods?
Unfortunately, I would, yes. I mean, good digestion. We always say you can almost have a bad diet and good digestion, and that's more preferable than a good diet and bad digestion. And what creates bad digestion is the food essentially that we eat, because it disturbs the system. The whole gastrointestinal tract gets out of sync. So really it's about that varied diet, lots of brightly coloured foods, vegetables, fruits, and if it isn't in a plastic wrapper, it's going to be much better for you, and then your digestive system will be in much better, the environment there will be better, and you won't have things like IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome created by foods that irritate you.
Okay, wonderful. Hannah, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again very soon on the show.
Hope so. Thank you.
Well, everyone, now it's time to meet X Factor star Russell Jones, and he's going to be telling us about losing his father, but also what he's done since to give back to his community, just like his dad used to do. Welcome back, everybody, to today's Chrissy B Show. So I'm delighted to now welcome onto the programme X Factor star Russell Jones. Welcome to the show, Russell. How are you?
I'm very good.
It's lovely to have you on.
I'm excited to be here.
So, Russell, we did meet at the IRA Awards.
We did, yes.
Last month. So it was a pleasure talking to you and your mum. We had such a laugh, didn't we?
We had a really good night. Really good, and congratulations as well. You did
and
amazing.
you've been nominated
Thank you so much.
So tell us now, because obviously you love your singing, you're going to care homes and everything like that. But can you tell us when it all started, when your love for singing developed?
It started at 17, just sitting in my bedroom listening to the old classic songs, and I never really believed that I could sing. Really, I never until Christmas time. I got up and started singing, and my mum was like, "I didn't know you had a singing voice." So I started singing the Christmas songs, and I was only going to play Jingle Bells. Just a bit of music in the background, and I'd listen to these songs and listen to these composers and writers in my bedroom, and just had such a feel for the old music, the Frank Sinatra style and Nat King Cole, and to music like ABBA as well. So I had two genres of music in my family. Really, my mum would love all the old style music, like the ABBA and and the Drifters, and then my dad would be listening to like the Frank Sinatra, the Nat King Cole.
Like your dad was a singer as well, wasn't he? Can you tell us about him?
He used to do all the music that I'm singing now, all the big band music, the Frank Sinatra, the Bobby Darin, Nat King Cole. So I used to go to my dad's shows and set the gear up, set his speakers, set all his stuff up for him. Yeah. And then I used to just watch him, and he used to just look up to him and think, do you know what, I'd love to do that. But
he used to actually sing in care homes, didn't he?
Yeah. Started off practicing in the care homes with all the old music and just practicing and using them as just go.
What was their reaction like when you would go in there and sing? How were they? Did they make them happy?
Yeah, it just made them happy. Like apart, like different songs in their life that they grew up listening to, and dances that they'd go to, and just every song had a chapter of those old people's lives, really.
So it must have made them really happy. Now tell us about your experience now on the X Factor. What was that like?
Oh, absolutely mind-blowing. Just absolutely amazing. One of the best things I've ever done.
Remind the viewers how far you got in the
I got down to the last 7 boys of the competition.
Amazing.
But such an amazing thing to be a part of, and made so many great friends from it, and and it's been such a great platform to go on and do other things, really. And now I go into schools and speak to kids with like learning difficulties, mental health, and just kind of give a little bit of rustle into their life. I think that's what the main key, that's the main message, and and my passion I'd like to share to kids and get them into sports, maybe playing rugby or maybe playing football or maybe go down the music route and kind of just get kids get to the core of them and find out what they want to do and find out their
Why did you
skills.
think it was important to give back in this sort? Because some people might say, I've got my singing career now, I'm just going to concentrate on myself. But why did you choose to give back to people?
I think it's just the messages online. I could never believe that one song could start something, and I never believed that a boy from a little town in South Wales with no socks on, a bow tie, and just singing the Jungle Book. But I think everyone needs a little bit of Disney in their life, and everyone needs a little bit of Baloo in their life and a bit of Mowgli. And then I go into these schools, and there was a girl. We took a trip up to and I do a lot with charities. Took a trip up to Dudley, and there was a girl in the crowd, and she had made this, so she put Jungle Book quotes, and then she put little things.
Okay, can you hold that up for us for the viewers to see? Okay, so she's and that's you in the corner, right?
She's actually sketched me, so that's very good. That's a nice little sketch. So
who are the other two?
Got a bit of Baloo as well, and we got. But when I seen it, I just nearly cried. It was so emotional. So all the little things that she has taken, and she wrote a letter as well, and it's so nice. Really, really
That's
nice.
Amazing. How does it make you feel to get things like that from people?
Just really emotional. I could never really believe that it could happen to me. I never really believed that I've touched people's lives in so many ways, and just from my music and my passion and.
Now your mum's got she told me earlier, she's got a whole pile of things like this just kept. So tell us, Russell, what does the future hold for you, do you think? What would you like to continue doing?
I'm just going to keep making people happy. I'm going to be doing loads of different shows over Christmas. I've got loads more in the pipeline. I'm going to be recording Jungle Book as a single for maybe NSPCC or one of the charities. But I've also been doing a lot for a charity based in London and all over, Ray of Sunshine, special needs charity. So maybe half for that charity and then half for a charity that also holds close to my heart as well. I've got some shows up in Essex with Gemma Collins and doing a couple of Christmas shows, a couple of light switchings up in Manchester, Stoke-on-Trent, then back down to Wales, and then back in London. So it's just so much on the go. Every day is so
now,
different.
I have to say something, Russell, here, because there is a lovely lady that does accompany you wherever you go, and she looks like a massive support to you. Would you like to tell us about her as well, briefly as well?
My mum, I don't know what I would do without her. She does so much. She comes on this, and it's nice for her to come on this journey with me where we travel everywhere. We go the length and breadth of the UK. We just go to every single place, and she's just I don't know what I would do without her.
I see the lovely relationship that you both have, I have to say, and I just had to give her a special shout out because she's so supportive. I can see.
Yeah, she's just sometimes I do her head in. And I mean sometimes she does my head in, but I wouldn't
You can hear her giggling in the background, by the way. If you can hear someone laughing, guys, it's mum in the background there. Russell, thank you so much for coming on to talk about your story. And please do keep in touch and let us know what's going on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll always have you back again.
Yeah, definitely. I'm coming back.
Okay,
I'm definitely coming back. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, so we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us by emailing info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about my mental health journey, all you need to do is visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
I'm the king of the swinger song, the jungle VIP. I'll reach the top Had to stop, cause that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub, and I've came onto your show. So Chrissy B, I'll tell you a little song, and this is the way it goes. Oh, ooby-doo, I wanna be like you, hoo-hoo. I wanna walk like you, and talk like you, too. Oh, you see it's true, scooby-doo. An ape like me, skibidi-bidi-dee, can learn to be someone as lovely as you.